Thanks for sending that out.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. To get started, we'll go around and do introductions since we have some new faces here. I can start. My name is Bridget Mancini. I'm the DNRC Fire Adapted Communities Coordinator for Raleigh. And my position is just to help coordinate and facilitate wildfire preparedness and prevention within Raleigh County.
I'm Brandon Broughton with Day West Insurance.
My name is Marie Scott. I'm with Team Rubicon Disaster Response. We do a lot of the heavy lifting, cleaning up after fires and floods and those kinds of things. And we're trying to move a lot more to mitigation in the West. I also live here right up there.
I am Krista Morrison. I'm with the DNRC. I'm a community preparedness and fire prevention specialist for the Southwestern Land Office, which includes Raleigh County. Your turn. I know you said
Eric Hoover, Ravalli County Emergency Manager.
Tom Stringham, Treasure State Builders and Government Affairs of the Bitter Building Association.
Ed Brenneman with Schrock Construction, past president of the Bitter Building Association.
Byron Bonnie, Bitter Resource Conservation and Development, retired Forest Service.
Ken Brewer, Florence Fire, retired Forest Service.
Judy Anderson, resident.
Dave Tingley, Forest Fuels and more here on there.
I'm Abby Josie. I'm the district ranger for the Dark Sewer Ranger District.
I'm Anna Bateson. I do fire prevention on the International. Dar, I believe that's you. Do you want to introduce yourself? There.
Anna, I was going to say, I think we can hear everyone in the room, but we can't hear you very good, Anna.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. While you're on, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, Mark Wilson, the Forest Fire Management Officer for the Bitterroot National Forest.
Thank you. There, I see you're unmuted. You can go for it.
Yep. Hopefully you can hear me. Thayer Jocks, Hamilton Unit, Forester, DNRC.
Thanks. John McKenna, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. John McKenna, Victor Fire Department.
Matt.
Hey, good evening, Matt Young, Assistant Forest FMO on the Bitterroot.
Thank you. And Dar, do you want to introduce yourself? Can you hear me, Dar? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Your hand. Yeah. Dar is a resident of Cwpp Canyon Village. So just kind of a little brief overview of where we were, where we're at, just for the new faces. So Fire in the Root was an outreach campaign that started in 2018. Primarily just outreach, education, a little bit here and there. And then my position started November of 2020. So it's been a little bit over a year now. So coming into this position, we thought a really great way to address wildfire risk would be trying to start this wildfire council, to just try and gather local resources and trying to collaborate and create kind of more cohesive and more effective wildfire awareness and response.
Get action done on the ground.
Yes, thank you. So most recently, we've decided to take on updating the community wildfire protection plan, which the most current version is from 2006. There was an update in 2009 that did not get accepted. So we are currently operating based off of the 2006 community wildfire protection plan. So yeah, we've just been planning to a presentation to the commissioners to request their support for our updating of the community wildfire protection plan. So make sure we're taking all the right steps, have the local support that we need to make it actually effective and get implemented and get more work done on the ground and eventually reduce the wildfire risk.
Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Awesome. Yeah, so very short, very quick little spiel there. So some updates. There is the Home and Branch Expo that we have coming up February 4th and 5th. We would like to have a presence there and would like a couple more volunteers. I know Judy, maybe Saturday for a few hours. We don't want to make it anniversary.
Oh, I can do it Friday night, but it'd be nice if I wasn't.
Yes, absolutely. So just finding a couple more volunteers. We can, myself, Hannah, and Kristen will all, one of us will be there as well at least. And this could be a good opportunity to integrate more of our members and treat it like a shadowing opportunity and kind of see what we do for outreach at the table. So you're not just thrown out there by yourself. So you won't be alone. But yeah, we're looking for a few more people to help just cover. It's Friday the 4th from 4 to 7 p.m. We'll set up before then. And then Saturday the 5th from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. But yeah, so if people want to reach out, if they're available, so I'll keep putting it in the email too and requesting for so yeah. Judy sent out her wonderful paper with a bunch of ideas and recommendations for the council to implement. And so just making sure everyone saw that, and we would like to have you on the agenda for February and go through one or two of them or something. Yeah, something. And if you want to create kind of like a plan, outline plan with start date, end date, short-term goals, long-term goals, and then like cost analysis. So if you want.
That won't happen. I have no idea what all of those things will cost. That was pretty much the plan.
Okay.
So what I'm hoping will happen is people will get a chance to review it and have questions, and we can decide, do we want to move ahead with any of these soon? Do we want to put some on hold? Do we not want to do any of them?
Okay.
So one thing though to help would be, I guess, and then maybe that's you sitting down with us, would be going through that so that we can pitch it to the council, but having an idea of how much it costs. And having an idea of the capacity that it's gonna take, because some things we could definitely do right now. Some things we might not be able to do because we literally do not have the personnel that can do it or want to at the moment, right? Because of whatever's going on in their life. So if we do that and let's pitch it to the group at the next meeting so that we can, like they understand, because it's, especially with the CWPP update, I think it would help the council to know exactly what it might entail so they know what they're biting off. And I think there's a number of those items we can definitely start working on. but it's the council's decision. And it will require council help. Because
Right.
you should not be doing it on your own, Bridget should not be doing it on her own. So, yeah.
Right, it's a proposal,
Right,
and I was asking for input. As far as costs, I will try.
well,
And
that's,
it doesn't have to be exact.
oh, yeah,
It's just
sit down with us.
Yeah.
Because we've
Yeah.
done lots of brochures, but usually we go locally, we don't go through, like, the government doesn't just print it, we go actually through the local channels. But we'll sit down with you and go through it, but unless if
Yeah.
that's, if the council doesn't, if you guys read it and you're good with how it was, and you wanna bite off on some stuff, then we're good with that too.
Just an idea. But when I read it, I thought, well, there's a lot of really good pieces here and very well thought out and well written. But it seems to me that if Judy and whoever went through and fleshed this out now into Gantt charts and cost estimates and the whole thing, and then we talk about it and change a whole bunch of pieces, that'll be for nothing. You know, it seems like it's got enough substance right now to provide the basis for the council to discuss it, make some idea changes and then once you get it to that point, I mean, some of the things, like you say, the publication of a brochure, that's something that you could cost out if you knew how many.
Right, yeah.
But training of X number of volunteers to shadow X number of permanent employees. Well, that, first of all, that could change completely when we get to discussing it. And secondly, you don't know either of those X's, you know? So if this were my proposal, I would suggest that we discuss it, flesh it out as a group to see what it is that we want to do before we take it all the way through to a plan. But that's just my approach to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be happy to
Yeah,
help
there's
you.
no numbers there because I didn't think we were ready to do that, and I don't have the ability to do that with the information I have.
Right. You've got some rough timelines and you've got some ideas of who might do it. But you don't know how many of those who's, you know, how many people the NRC has doing this. If there's 2, there's limited shadowing opportunities. If there's 20, that's different.
That's what we were saying, because there isn't 20.
I know.
So it's like,
but-
that's what we could kind of, that's okay. Let's go over it in March or in February. Yeah,
February.
we're good with that. Yep.
Flush through that.
Yeah, I mean, and we can certainly correspond about stuff
Yeah.
for clarification.
Yeah.
Between now and then.
Yeah, provide Judy feedback.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And
Yeah,
once we
good
go
job.
through those discussions, we could maybe get a committee together to flesh it a little more for the entire council.
Exactly, yeah.
I like that.
So the new folks who are here tonight would have that.
Yep.
Where you get their emails and be able to forward.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So Eric got the meeting scheduled with the commissioners. Thank you so much for that. It is going to be March 10th at 2 p.m. And I'll send this out in the recap email to you as well. And location is just at the,
Their preference was to initially plan on just doing it at their meeting room. And it's gonna be noticed enough. I mean, it's on the calendar right now. And people do look at the calendar. That if they start getting comments and feedback and indication that we may be over capacity, then we can move it, that they want to take that time to move it to a different day.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
And hopefully it's what we talked about last week, where we anticipate there to be a large crowd and it ends up being a couple folks and they're supportive of it, you know.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate your help with that.
Mhm.
And then I think that brings us to the presentation run through. How do you all feel about that?
Yeah. I mean,
Awesome.
this is draft.
Yep. Draft, so opportunity for comments, questions, feedback, modify, changes.
But not lengthened.
Yes.
Let's, you know,
Shortened, if anything.
yeah.
Only cutting out.
We want short and simple.
I will be quiet.
Any input is welcome as long as it doesn't add anything or complexity.
So this is it, the page that ends with
Right.
Yeah,
Hefra and then
yeah,
thank you.
right. Yeah, there's not a lot here.
One thing I noticed is Hefra was mentioned on this next to last page, but we never spelled out what Hefra was. Oh, yes.
I think
Yeah,
we
we did.
I think we
We
did,
did at some point there.
but
I
it
see.
probably wouldn't hurt, rather than using an acronym, it probably wouldn't hurt.
Yeah, the average duck isn't going to know what Hefra is.
Are you guys willing to go through the presentation?
Yeah, that probably makes sense.
Yeah.
And thank you for working on this.
Wanna
You just start.
go for it?
Yeah, you're gonna take over at some point?
Could or not. I mean, it's pretty short.
Yeah, it is. Okay. Here we go.
Got it on the board too, just.
Oh, I don't know if I can read that.
Yeah.
You can read this,
Yeah, I know, I got this.
and I'll flip it so you got the speaker.
Let me just have it, and I'll flip it.
Okay,
Okay, and that'll save you the work.
all right, you know,
Start the timer
Okay.
so we see how long it takes.
So all of you are on the county commission board. Even you.
you can give yourself a raise, Eric.
Double or nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, thanks for the opportunity to discuss the community wildfire protection plan with you. Here's what we're gonna go for here today. First of all, I wanna just say,
Next
this is
slide,
the
please.
bottom. Yeah. This is the bottom line, but we're saying it up front to you. The 2006 Bitterroot Community Wildfire Protection Plan is out of date and is in need of an update to reflect the current conditions that are in Ravalli County currently. The Fire and the Root Council tends to update the 2006 plan and has widespread support, including nearly all entities that signed the 2006 plan. Grant funding is potentially available in 2022 this year, provide financial resources to help facilitate this update. But it required local support, including the Ravalli County Commissioners. And in addition, the county will be competitive for Infrastructure Act funding, private and state forestry and forest action plan grant funding. Okay, we are here tonight. We are here this afternoon to
right,
provide
James.
background information on the Fire and the Root Council, who we are, the Community Fire Wildfire Protection Plan characteristics, the benefits, and the requirements of it. And we want to request, bottom line, a letter of support from the commissioners to help secure funding for this update process. So who are we? The Fire and the Root Council. We are a locally collaborative focused on implementing projects and coordinating wildfire preparedness and prevention activities throughout Ravalli County. And our mission statement is, the Fire and the Root Council's mission is to promote and facilitate the long-term reduction of risk from wildfire and adaptation to wildfire by communities and residents throughout Ravalli County. Fire and Root Council is gaining momentum to accomplish this mission. So who are we? What are we made up of? Well, the membership is several entities, and they include the Montana State Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, the U.S. Forest Service, Bitterroot National Forest, Ravalli County Office of Emergency Management, Ravalli County Sheriff's Office, Marcus Daly Memorial Hospital, the NIH Rocky Mountain Lab, Montana Board of Realtors, Bitterroot Building Industry Association, local insurance agents, local residents, I might add other local businesses, maybe. Okay. Sure.
Make a second column. Or another one. How about it?
Okay, so what is the CWPP?
There's something funny. Let me interrupt, stop your timer. There's something funny about that shared drive.
Is there?
Yeah, the PowerPoint on there, you can't adjust the spacing between the lines.
Oh, you have to
And
download it
Yeah.
onto your desktop.
I did, and then when I sent it back and we put it on there and it put it back to, so that last slide,
Okay.
that all goes on to one when it's on a regular commercial
Yes.
Microsoft PowerPoint, but when you put it into that shared, I don't trust shared drives for lots of reasons, but this is one of them.
I thought it was just me.
Yeah, and then the other thing is that there's a lot of the editing stuff you just can't do.
Yeah,
So
so that is a really good thing that we've got to make sure we'll have it on a thumb drive. Do they have Publisher on?
Yep.
Okay, or PowerPoint. So
Yeah.
what we'll do is we'll work on it on a desktop. It still saves your changes when you upload it back to the drive, you just can't see it. But if
well, it
we
saves the
were-
changes, but it reformats them.
when it comes back to the desktop, does it look funky again?
Well, I don't know. I haven't brought it back.
It shouldn't, it should look okay, so like if we.
Well, I
just
saved it
save-
on my desktop anyway, so.
Good. But you can, we'll save the final.
Yeah.
On a thumb drive.
Yep.
And make sure not to open it online, but open it from the thumb drive,
Yeah,
and it should be okay.
and
That
there's
is a
lots of
wonky
reasons
thing.
not to do a PowerPoint online anyway.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah.
okay,
But
so
that's
start your
really-
timers.
Okay. So what is a CWPP, the Community Wildfire Protection Plan? Well, first of all, it's a community-based plan that identifies and addresses the threat of wildfire in Ravalli County. And it also determines values at risk in Ravalli County. It's a roadmap of clear actions for the communities and local landowners to address wildfire risk. Then the national standard of practice since 2003, when the Healthy Forest Restoration Act was signed into law. So basically, the Healthy Forest Restoration Act provided for the development of CWPPs to give the Forest Service and the BLM, Bureau of Land Management, statutory incentives to consider priorities of local communities. that developed and implemented forest plan or forest management and hazardous fuel reduction projects through the Community Wildfire Protection Plan. Okay, so that is the law that we're working under. So what are the benefits of the CWPP? One is to reduce the social, economic, and environmental costs of wildfire, fight community values, and prioritize wildfire risk reduction. Did I add something here? Okay. Influence where federal agencies, the U.S. Forest Service and BLM prioritize fuel treatments. And basically, I think we should add in here, maybe emphasizing cross-boundary projects. Okay. It brings together diverse interests, as you saw from our group, to tackle local wildfire challenges and opportunities. It increases the opportunity for resources and funding for mitigation activities on all lands. It increases community awareness and engagement in risk reduction. Next. So the Healthy Forest Restoration Act requires that CWPPs must meet 3 minimum requirements. It has to show collaboration between local and state agencies, and consultation with federal agencies and other interested parties. And I think you saw that with the makeup of our council. Identify and prioritize fuel treatments to reduce hazardous fuel in the wildland urban interface, the WUI as it's better known, and recommend strategies to reduce the ignitability of structures. And just for as a sidelight, I had a statement that I added in later. Defining the WUI will be part of the CWPP process in Ravalli County and will address the conditions and criteria in determining the WUI in Ravalli County. In other words, we don't have a WUI at this point in time. We're going to develop the criteria and conditions that define the WUI in this process. Will that answer their question there? Thank you, everybody.
You know, the only thing, and I mean, I talked to the board and they understand that we can't define the WUI beforehand. The only thing that I think might be useful is maybe just at the end to have a brief thing like some of the criteria that we may use or that we may look at are these, and just get 2 or 3 bullet points, you know, forest and private boundaries, topography,
forest action plan, high risk areas.
Yeah, just, you know, some of the things that we may take a look at are, and I think that would go a long way.
Yeah, good idea.
It's helpful to include example of some of them that we looked at through this process. Or is that?
Yeah, I think that, you know, if we've got a couple examples that.
It wasn't bad. A little bit too long, but I think part of that is we get a break in the middle.
Mhm.
And but I think it was pretty close to the time.
You gotta try to link one slide to another talk that you give. Council.
Yeah, no, I think that part of it was really good. And I think it wouldn't hurt to switch the order of the requirements so that the WUI is the last requirement and then elaborate on it.
Yeah.
You know, and then HEFRA needs to change from an acronym. And Bitterroot Health is a name change for Marcus Daly. And then there's some, I corrected the spelling errors, the typos
Right.
on the other version, but I figured there'd be things that we'd change tonight, so I didn't send it out. So we're looking at version 2 here, or 10.
Numerous.
2 of the last round, number 2 of the last round. So, but overall, I think it's good.
Yeah, I think it's excellent.
And, you know, and anywhere in that 15 to 20 minute range, closer to 15 is good. And
My
given the
timer is-
bottom line up front, I'm a big proponent of that. Because sometimes you lose people after the first slide, and at least they know what it was that they were supposed to get. Yeah.
No, I thought time wise, what did it come out to be?
7:51.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're,
7
Minutes.
and 51 seconds.
yeah, you're there.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Now we
And
gotta
how
add
many
to it.
total slides?
No, no, you don't.
8 total slides?
Yeah.
Well, 7, not including
No, that's.
Yeah, the intro and the thank you.
6.
I mean, they do count because you say something while you got them up. They just don't count for much.
Yeah, I think that's great. Feedback? How about those of you in Zoom land? Any feedback?
Yeah, this is John McKenna. I think it's a great presentation, and I agree with the comments and suggestions about a little bit of reorganization. But one thing that kind of struck me, it seemed to be a lack of emphasis on educating the public and responding to their concerns and issues that are probably going to come up right at the get-go because they don't really understand the intent, the goal and the process. So I would suggest that you consider adding a couple of points on what the process will involve, that it's a primary objective is educating the public on their risks, as well as on how they can individually address those risks.
And we could expound on the CWPP benefits. The last bullet down there says increase community awareness and engagement in risk reduction. Is that kind of what you're talking about, John?
Yes, but increasing awareness is one thing, but educating goes beyond just making people aware. I guess but I think there's another slide where I think we could emphasize the educating the public on the risks and benefits are really important, especially in responding to what I think are going to be the similar knee-jerk reactions from the 2009 exercise, when there was an alarmist attitude that all this was going to do is lead to increased property insurance costs.
Yeah, good input. So,
Thank you, John. I think, so what is to keep the presentation short? Is that something we think we could answer if and when the question does come up? So
Well, there's room for another benefit. The
Okay.
first benefit, or the last benefit on that list,
yeah,
deals with increase awareness and education. Our education mission should be either the one that precedes that one or the one that follows that one. And one extra benefit is not gonna add enough to that to matter. And it's a really good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's what we were talking about before we got to the presentation was the education part of it. So,
Do we want to put a slide in, maybe kind of to that end, something to the effect of the update process will include community meetings in each of the communities with opportunity for public comment and public input to the development of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Eric.
Yeah.
And I would also, it struck me that the list of supporters, and I don't know if we had overlooked them before or if we had mentioned them, but what about the school districts as one of our key supporters? And hand in hand with that, as far as education, the educational program could start, day one at grade school level. We're not talking about simply educating the homeowner or the adult community or the leaders of the community, but the educational process probably needs to include school children as well.
Right, but remember that is what will be fleshed out in the CWPP, right? Ideally, hopefully, the CWPP will identify there's a need for education or curriculum at all levels. But we can't dictate that we will be doing that. Does that make sense? So what we can say about the CWPP process is that it will provide education by means of our public meetings and our outreach to the public for gathering of input on the CWPP. Does that make sense, John?
Yes, I agree with that, but I guess I'm just adding to that there's another level of education that it will be part of the CWPP.
Yes.
But it goes beyond just educating the community at large, because we need to start educating at a young age because they're going to be the eventual homeowners.
Yes.
And the sooner that they're brought into the fold of what we're about and the benefits and the risks, the easier it's going to be to maintain a productive CWPP and risk management process. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents worth. I understand that that's embedded in the CWPP, but I think just emphasizing that education has a broad spectrum. It's not just convincing the public at a community meeting, that we're really about educating them about their involvement and how they're going to be end up being the ones who produce the fire resistant community.
John, you also made a point that the school district probably should be in our outreach, and that's a really good point we shouldn't lose here. We were identifying, last week we identified some additional groups to include in our outreach, and you just identified school districts, and that's an important thing not to miss as we go past this. I mean, our membership only includes the people that have participated to date. Right. But 2 months from now, really, is what we're talking about for this, and this list could change. I mean, it will change, and I expect we'll hear from the power companies, for instance. They seem like they would have an interest in this, and if we can change this line spacing, we can fit a lot more members in.
Now, one thing, just to, I guess, on membership, is it okay that we put membership? We do not have a formal method of determining membership. And
How
so.
about participation?
How about interested parties?
These are the people that have shown up.
Right.
I mean,
So-
if you show up,
I kind of lean towards
stake-
stakeholders.
yeah,
Although it's not the only stakeholders, like we also want to put that these are the ones who are showing up to meetings, because our stakeholder list is actually huge.
our stakeholder list has a lot of people that
That
don't know their stakeholders.
Right, right.
But the
So-
people who have shown up at the meetings, whatever we call
If we
them.
just say participant, would you be okay being called a participant, fire on the way? Participant, I guess, because honestly.
Because I didn't know we were members.
Right.
I
and
mean,
that's-
to be honest, I'm like, oh, I mean, you came and talked to us,
Yeah.
Right,
but it kind of caught me by surprise.
yeah.
Very inclusive.
Or no.
So that's
Yeah.
why I pointed that out, I really didn't, we don't want to give a label.
Yeah.
Because that does have a connotation that it is something that you're, may not belong to or do, so.
Participants make sense.
Yeah.
Collaborators make sense, but it has a different connotation.
Right, that's
But
a
it-
lot more active.
I don't see-
Well, would the term supporters work in lieu of participants?
Yeah, what do you think? Would you rather be participants or supporters, or what would you, or do you not want to be on that list?
I
Like, do
think-
you feel that obligates you?
I think as a participant, the Builders Association would be more than, willing, and potentially a supporter after tonight. I have some questions, but when we get there,
Yeah.
I think I'll be able to bring that back to the board, and then we'll write up a letter of support.
And we're getting letters of support from a broader group than actively participants.
Right.
So we don't want to muddy the water between supporters and participants in that respect.
I think participant gives it more.
Yeah,
You have a role
that's a good point.
more than a supporter where they're providing the funding for studies.
Yeah.
But what I don't see in this presentation is the consequences of not updating the plan.
Because we did discuss that too. Let's just put a really good picture. No, just kidding. Yeah, I agree. Because we had mentioned that, if we don't.
Well, we are going to update it. The group intends to update the plan. Will be far more successful if we have the local government support to be competitive for funding. If we don't have any funding to do it, we may have the intention, but it's not going to go very fast or very far. If we have support from the agencies and particularly the county commissioners.
Well, but see, we have to be careful there, because honestly, if our county commissioners do not support this, it is something we need to discuss as something to move forward on. I can see if we didn't have funding, we would move forward. If our local county commissioners do not support that, it says to the state, this county is not ready for it. Right?
State's map.
Huh?
We will resort back to the state's map.
Right, but it also, the state could easily say, Kristen, your time should be spent maybe helping to bring bring better understanding as to why this is important, instead of pushing through something that is not welcome or accepted at the moment. You see what I'm saying? So I would hesitate saying we are gonna push forward, no matter
Actually, you were the
what.
one last time that
No, it
said
was
we were going to
funding.
push forward.
No, it was funding, without funding. It was, will we push forward if there's no funding? It was not the signatures. The signatures are local support. Funding is something we can get elsewhere. So I am all for pushing forward no matter what in terms of funding. We can find funding. We need local support. And those commissioners may not be your voice, but they are the voice for much of the county. That's why they're the commissioners. And so I would hesitate pushing forward without their support in my role with the state. I feel that is how my agency, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do.
There is, and that was not what I was saying last week. It was purely funding. But we have to have local support. This is a plan that's collaborative, and that means all the local voices, yes, are involved. And so, yeah, it isn't something I think that we would just push forward without their.
So last time we had, for the revision, we had every one that signed the 2006 plan except the commissioners.
Yeah.
So it didn't take effect because of the authority granted to the commissioners.
Right.
Okay. So if the commissioners say at this meeting, well, we're going to wait and see, then what do? Conversely, if they say, we don't want another plan, no matter what you do, we will not support it, even if everyone else that signed both of the other ones wants to move forward.
Right.
And that's what I mean about consequences. We need to make it clear what the consequences of not having them. I'm assuming there are some.
Yes.
Right. I mean, obviously, you don't get the funding to
Well, it's the inverse of the benefits, basically.
But sometimes you have to spell that out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Make it
I
really
agree.
clear.
I agree.
And like seriously, a scared straight sort of thing. Do we want to see the consequences of us not doing it? Just saying that statement might actually have all the implications you need. They know. They know. Right? It's another roaring lion times 10, times 20, times 100. So maybe it's just we end with that slide, but I'm having a slide, but you know, the consequences of not doing this? Do we really want to see that?
Did you say in the first slide or the last slide?
I think the
Here
last
for
slide,
your support as commissioners.
yeah.
We
so
say it
we
in the first one and the last.
Oh, yeah, do it in both,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we gave them the bottom line up front.
right?
And if we
Yeah.
lose their attention after the first slide, and you do sometimes,
Yeah,
they still know what it is that's being presented.
Yeah.
But when you get to the end, I mean, it does say, not too subtly, Fire and the Root Council intends to update the plan and have widespread support, including nearly all the entities that signed the 2006 plan. We could say, except you.
yeah.
It's a little less subtle, but,
You know, and instead of
It's an
intent,
act in the-
can we rephrase it to the Fire and the Root Council is willing to or would like to instead of intend? So that they don't feel like we're coming in with a bulldozer and like we're saying, we are doing this, whether you like it or not, but we're here as a courtesy. Like, if you put it all around.
Hi, this is Dar. Are we going to get the meeting going here?
But he hasn't heard a word.
He had, hi, Dar, can you hear us now? Can we write something to her?
Yeah, you're right there.
Hold the sign up to the camera.
Yeah,
actually, she could
hold the
write
sign
it.
up to the camera.
Am I on now?
You are.
We can hear you.
Can you hear us?
Should I write in no? How do I get a no in there?
Just say no.
Go down here,
Yes?
Can I
return.
ask a question? Brandon, is it?
Yeah.
One question of ours is currently, is
I can't hear you.
using the WUI map for rates or not? It is not, okay. So implementing a map could potentially raise, they'll have
They
no
have their
effect.
own.
Okay,
Yeah, we're already using it.
you are already, okay,
Yeah,
so
we've already
that's what I thought.
moved along.
So my recommendation is in your spiel to hit that. One thing in the Bitterroot you don't want to do is underestimate the people that are in the room and their knowledge. So you definitely do not want to try and circumvent or, try and put cotton candy over something. So I would hit that head on in the spiel and say, when you say identifying the WUI, this is already somewhat in effect in the insurance industry, so it won't affect your rates or something to that effect. Because that's going to be a question.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, actually, we had that written out as a question,
Okay.
and you are the one that's gonna answer.
Yeah, the mob question. Okay, got it.
So
Okay.
we have some not frequently asked questions, but likely questions.
Okay.
With the experts answering the question,
Perfect. Okay. Yeah.
whatever an expert is.
Yeah. And then the other question that I have in the slide, and this is probably one of our biggest holdups from a participant to a supporter, is that we asked about any other mandates for the building materials on a house, and it was conveyed that it was just going to be roofing. Is that still the case?
Or actually not any of those things.
That's
It's
only
not,
for, if we apply, or any entity applies for funding through the infrastructure bill, any of that funding, the 500 million that is for wildfire defensive communities, that requires the roofing. Only funding that is requested from that. The CWPP is not a regulatory or enforceable document. It's a guiding plan. So it cannot require anything. So it could recommend that there be, maybe a code for this or that, but it's not enforceable unless that community would like to enforce it. So,
Okay.
and if there's no desire for any increased regulation, it's not going to be put in the CWPP. It is a reflection of what the local voices would like.
Okay.
So that's where,
So that'll be a question too.
and that's
Love that one too.
that's one of the ones on the list.
Okay.
is, and the answer is the CWPP is not a legal document, it's a plan. It has no authority.
Yeah, but again,
If the
people-
commissioners want to take any recommendations and make those building codes, that's the process for
Up to
getting
them.
building
Right.
codes
Yeah.
out of it. But it's not a regulatory document.
What the CWPP can do is it can provide a list of resources for people to look at and say, here's the resources where you can find some building ideas or other areas that'll help you make fire, work towards your fire mitigation measures on the
Or
house.
landscaping
Landscaping
ideas.
ideas.
Or
Here's
fuel
different types of
management
trees, here's different
ideas.
types of.
yeah, no, I think that's great. But any time in the bitter, especially if there's any hey, you have to do this if you're in here,
Right, that one has.
it's not gonna go well.
And there's nothing that says that.
Yeah.
I think this, your point is very key here, especially for you guys, and for the landscaping industry, if we're looking at talking to them too, is there's federal funding that's coming down through the state to communities, to private citizens, but only if they won't have access to it if they aren't doing some of these things.
Yes.
That are part of that federal funding. It's not a federal mandate, but to get the money, you gotta do certain things.
Right.
Otherwise, it's out of your own pocket, you know, and they take that risk every day now anyway.
Right.
So it's just, I would call it an enticement. So
Right.
I don't know if there's a way. where-
No, you're not unmuted. You're-
Well, I mean, it does mention that the county would be
Video.
competitive with those funds. But what it doesn't say, being more competitive if you move forward and update your CWPP is one thing. Not being competitive at all is an effect of not updating it. If you don't update the CWPP, you are not going to get any of
Yeah,
that.
it should be. Here's chat.
Taking care of everything you're
Not
saying.
only will you not get the money to update it if we don't have local support, but if you don't update the plan, you won't get any of the funding.
Right, and that's kind of what I was getting at, is that you really need to make that very, very clear.
Yeah, and that's the point to, that's in that first one, but to cycle back around that.
Wanted to add just to the building piece of that too, is that, I mean, kind of, I guess, to the point of where the insurance rates and really mapping piece from
No, you're not muted. You're open.
being
You don't have to do all that.
building code piece of it, I mean, insurance companies are coming in now on that end of it as well, and requiring a lot more.
Right.
In order for us to place business, especially in our higher brush fire score areas. And it's making things more complicated. Try using the DNRC's home assessment. That, even the information that is collected from that isn't enough data for an insurance company to kind of surpass that or declining risk to some extent there too. So I think it's just, I think that's gonna something that potentially.
So like.
It's not gonna be coming from a governmental requirement. It's gonna start coming from elsewhere too.
Gotcha.
So we prepared a whole bunch of questions or we are working on it too. And answers that might be asked. And like these questions were in there because we knew that they were really important.
Because they're such
Probably
big
bring it up. Do we want to put some of that, like you said, in the presentation, like with the WUI? Do we want to put, insurance rates are not dependent on this? Do we want to put, this document is not a regulatory document, it is a plan? Do we want to put it in the meat, or do we want to leave it as a question and know that it's coming and be prepared for that answer? What do you suggest?
I mean, if it were me, I would put it in it because I know of some people in the bid room that are gonna be like, well, what are you trying to hide, So I would try and put it into the presentation. And it could just be in the back of your mind, it's something that you say, and not necessarily bullet point it, but.
And since we're only 8 minutes now.
We got the time.
Yeah.
We've got time for a few more.
Yeah, Eric, what do you think?
I don't know, I think there's some value in keeping it short. The problem is it's just speculation, like if some of these important questions are gonna be asked or not, and you don't necessarily wanna omit them, if it's not brought up. So.
Is it appropriate to add a slide, just like the last slide that is between, thank you, there, it's not one necessarily to present or something, but a list of questions that we have people that are prepared to answer. Like these questions, we have people here ready to answer them. if these are questions that want to be
I
addressed.
think that.
Otherwise, we'll leave it on the table, we won't take up this time, if that,
Yeah.
if those are
Yeah, that's a
questions
great
that
idea.
we're
We-
not looking for answers to.
Yeah, that's a really good idea, because we've talked about 2 questions, but that list that we've got is about 20.
Yeah,
And we don't wanna inflate the presentation to cover all of those if there's no interest in them at the commissioners meeting.
right.
You know, right now, this is probably overkill for the commissioners, because they already know what a CWPP is, they already know who we are, and they already know what we're asking for.
Yeah,
But you have to put enough in there to just kind of cover it.
the
As we said
commissioners are
last
gonna
week,
want
we're also,
to know that they've reached out to the people.
yeah, we're recognizing that the audience is not only the commissioners, but the public is listening. And we want to educate them at the get-go.
I have one more question. So,
Yeah, go for it.
this is only my 3rd meeting, so that's why I have so many questions. In one of the meetings, there was mention of, $500 million of grant money for this, 200 million for that. And one of those items was for removing fuel and creating wood products, which in our industry, here locally, we would love to see after mills have died and lumber prices are crazy. So I don't know if that can be mentioned or not, and that would be a huge benefit to the local community.
So in those questions, I don't know if it's in there, but that's great. What if we do, what funding is available if we do if the CWP is completed? And then I can present the infrastructure bill or can
That actually is spelled out in here in the, that was a suggested addition from blanking out on his name.
Hello, Steve. Probably Rick.
Yeah, he came from he was on the Payette Resource Staff Officer, and wife works at MTDC. And his
Steve,
name, yeah, Steve,
Yeah, okay.
man,
I was like, I'm
trying to
I don't know
remember
his background.
somebody's name, right? Yeah, somebody you know, and that's, I have to start wearing my name tag upside down so I can read it myself. So anyway, yeah, Steve suggested that, and so it's, in addition, the county will be competitive for Infrastructure Act funding, state and private forestry and forest action plan grant programs. And of course, the inverse of that is, if you don't update your CWPP, you're not gonna be, you might as well not even apply.
Yeah.
Right.
I will definitely come prepared with the exact numbers though.
Yeah.
Because funding is general, 500 million. With that, well, actually, it's more than, it's 500 million. And then 500 million for mechanical thinning and for commercial thinning, 500 million for community wildfire defense grants. 500 million for planning and conducting prescribed fires, 500 million for improving potential control locations, 200 million for removing fuels, creating biochar wood products. And then there's some
Biochar and wood products,
No,
or biochar wood products?
yes.
What is that? Tar wood products.
Biochar is as a soil enhancing product. Basically, it's a variation on charcoal, but the way it's done is with a kiln on site. And it's, it's really good for lots of soil properties and lots of things like that. But it's not a 2x4.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Did I catch that correctly? It's 500 per event that's mentioned there, so it's.
Not per event, so that is for the
Okay.
bill, it's 500 million total
Got it,
for
okay.
each.
Because I started doing some math, going, well, I don't know what now it's.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's fine. And so it's grants not, like for the community wildfire defense grants. Grants not more than 250,000, cost share 10%. These are grants for developing or revising CWPPs, carrying out projects in CWPPs that are not more than 10 years old. So we're out of that right now. Not more than 10 million, cost share is 25%. Priority is given to communities that are in identified high or very high wildfire hazard potential where low-income communities or a community impacted by severe disaster. Cost share can be waived. Communities need to have adopted an ordinance or regulation that requires new roofs to adhere to NFPA or ICCW or WUI code standards. So I'll say roofs, but it's new roofs, so
So
it's not.
that's the international WUI code?
Yes, the
Yeah.
ICC.
The ICC has a section in it that has movie codes.
Basically, don't put a shake roof on a house in the
Yeah.
forest.
Yeah, I mean, it's things that
Yeah.
It's kind of what
people are doing.
they're doing anyways, but it's still, and that's that 500 million for community wildfire defense funds.
But
That's
if you
it.
don't have a CWPP, you can't even apply for those things.
Yeah.
With the one that's less than 10 years old.
So the other benefit of having a CWPP and ability to get the funding is the 2x4s that you were talking about. Through the mitigation that we do on private land and on national forest and on state, the money that is available to do mitigation is going to produce those 2x4s. It's going to provide employment. It's going to provide all the benefits to the economy that we seem to be lacking these days. So I think that's another side benefit of the CWPP is identifying those mitigation projects that are going to help produce some of that stuff that you folks need.
And just remind me, I think you had said at the meeting that if, in a perfect world, if the CWPP gets written, right? And people start going through the fuel reduction mitigation on their own private property, the federal land now, Forest Service, is obligated to do their fuel reductions as well. For example, if you get 10 properties and people go through and do their reductions and they sit up against Forest Service, the Forest Service now says, oh, they've done their part, we now have to go in and do.
So priority.
Yeah.
Or priority, or it becomes
helps
priority.
the forest- So the Forest Service, and Abby, correct me if I'm wrong, or Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, or Mark, and Mariana. Yeah, I probably am the last one that should be speaking to this. But it's, the Forest Service is relies on that WUI definition and to prioritize their projects.
Got it.
They are required to prioritize their projects for areas that are identified in WUI for that cross-boundary work. So it isn't just if so-and-so does work on their land, the Forest Service then has to do work on their land right there. It's a broader scale,
Got it.
correct?
And if
Yeah,
it's identified,
ideally, be invited to the table with the neighborhood,
Right,
working with the neighborhood.
yeah.
Right, because we want to be able to direct any direct benefits to the federal lands for any of those kinds of those projects, right? And we may come to the neighborhood before they're ready. Say, hey, we're gonna be doing some work at your neighborhood. Are all your neighbors lined up to jump on board with us?
Right.
Got it.
And so it works
Right,
both
vice
ways,
versa.
right? Yeah.
And the bidder is in a better competitive position if there's a community wildfire protection plan that's in place than if there isn't. You know, because every national forest is going to be competing for a limited pool of dollars. And so you're going to have.
Tap. Talking a lot about this, we're on tap to get a big increase in fuels reduction dollars. And we're gonna go with places to get it on the ground, partners to help us get it on the ground.
well, we're defined by the Forest Action Plan as the 1, 2, and 4 highest priority watersheds in the state. Then I would think that that people would want to jump on board.
Oh, yeah. harvest is there at the top.
Got updates and edits to do for presentation. Any last thoughts, comments, questions, concerns for the presentation? Awesome. So, well, I plan to update it. I can get that out at some point, probably. For next meeting.
I got all the notes, I'll do it.
Yeah, okay. Appreciate that. And then maybe next meeting, we can plan to go through just another run through of the updated version.
Yeah.
Awesome. Because I think we might even end up having another meeting, fire and grid council meeting in March prior to the council meeting. Yeah, because that's the 10th, and so we'll do the first Tuesday of every month. So, yeah, we'll get that out, go through another run through next meeting. So in the last, it is 8:14. If you want to go, okay, yeah, sure. Created a little email template spiel. So if and when different individuals are reaching out to organizations, groups, whatnot, utilize this email as a template to send along with the letter of support. So we do have a draft letter of support that we went through last meeting. So organizations want to use that if they can.
So this hasn't changed since
Yes,
last week.
yes, it has. I added to it.
And this is so when we're sending the email out or the letter of requesting for the letter of support, it is via email. We're gonna provide the little email spiel along with the letter.
This is the body of your email.
Yeah.
And then the attachment will be the letter of support. And this is for, so we felt that it would be important to gather letters of support from stakeholders that have a stake in this process, to one, introduce them to what's going on, but also ask for their support, because they will be part of the process if it goes on. And we are going to be seeking funding from the state later on this spring to support the CWPP update if we're moving forward. And that would also be beneficial because they will require local support. They want to see that it's going to be a collaborative effort, but also that there is widespread local support. So we're trying to kill two birds with one stone. And that's what this is. And so this is an outreach. We're going to identify all the groups that we want to send this request to.
That last paragraph's good.
Yeah.
So that is available, and kind of in that process of going through these things, I also we had gone through the notification letter that we'll send out to the group of people we just want to notify, and I was thinking through it. I can see that just being kind of like an email versus a letter, or do we want it as a formal letter? Just okay, awesome. So yeah, that perfect. So then that one's done and ready. You can just copy and paste that for people who we want to notify.
Yeah, it may need a little touching. We have a lot of supports in there, so we need some other words for support. But
in addition to consent, also wanting to provide
yes,
basically the staff with letters of support.
yes.
Did you, and you've got the draft letter to go with them?
Yes, the
Okay.
draft letter is in there as well. I didn't open that one up. It is just in the folder.
Did you leave the draft letter? Is it still, or did you change it, Kristen?
I didn't say, yeah, because we went over that as a request.
Yeah.
And this one I just added to, but it totally can be changed. I just.
Do we want to see the draft letter of support again?
Sure.
Yeah.
And this obviously can and should be changed by the entity too, because they It's really just providing an idea of what to say, if they'd like to say, it, they can change.
I find people are more inclined to, if you put a draft letter there, they'll just sign their name. put their
Right.
name in.
Right.
Okay with this? Yeah. Awesome, okay. You just sense out of that.
And that's the key thing too to this, is that it's not saying, it's not obligating anyone to say any certain thing. It's just like that last paragraph, it's saying, we're gonna provide input. It doesn't mean it's what everybody wants to hear, or whatever. It's just, we're gonna provide input that represents our local knowledge and insights, so I think that was pretty key. Okay, so this is everybody we're sending, or we're gonna reach out to for letters of support.
That top section is everyone that already signed, that had signed the original CWP. And there was super awesome, and on top of things, already got us a letter of support from the Hamilton unit.
DNRC. Good job, Sarah, thank you.
So thank you there.
Oh yeah, we're gonna change the name.
Tell me who the Ravalli County Collaborative is.
Well.
Apparently it's funny.
I don't know what it is.
I was hoping Ken could put it in one sentence. So, it's a group that I believe was put together with county support to provide collaborative input on forest health issues within the county.
I've just heard of it. I have no idea what it is.
So
Is it an ancient organization or?
3 years.
I think they've been around about 3 years.
Yeah, nothing that says collaborative is ancient.
Right?
So
Five
Bridget
years
has-
or less.
Bridget
called it
has been
something else.
attending their meetings and definitely being our voice and requesting their participation with us, because there's a lot of alignment between our missions. So, we definitely hope that they will.
So they haven't come yet.
Not yet, but at least Bridget is a bridge there. So anybody up there, or anybody that's not up there that should be, that we want to reach out to.
All of the school districts will be allowed.
Council of Churches. I know normally you would do the church's statement, but it impacts membership of the churches, because so many of them. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
So would that be, do you think, more of a notification group where we notify them that this is going on? And
Yeah.
versus like a requesting a letter of support. I like that. No.
The organizations like the Root Stoppers.
Yeah, also.
For support or outreach, for notification. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, what was the guy's name that was here a couple of meetings? Valley County Spec Growers.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
This year, first few meetings.
Oh, God. So it's like, is that something to
I mean, you could look it up in the meeting notes. For the meeting.
He was over one.
Let's go look at it. So,
I'm also the president.
I guess I thought it's like,
Yeah,
that far.
Yeah, I think just between the stock growers and those two, I mean, those two entities have
no, I think,
large
well,
amount of
so how,
members
Yeah,
to communicate.
yeah.
Yeah. I think
no,
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and he hasn't been here since
No.
November.
and so.
Yeah, he does.
For notifications.
His wife's a
We
professional
were getting
grandmother.
notification just for the stock growers and farm bureau.
Oh, it's still.
Stock growers and farm bureau.
Farm Bureau.
Can I put you in charge of reaching out to those? Awesome, and so all the stuff are in the shared Google Drive. If you can't access it or having trouble accessing it, let me know, and I can just send it to you.
Yes, it is. And I'll stop. So, can we go to notification?
Would add GSK to that list?
Do you think for support or notification?
Well, for both.
Who did he say? Who did he say?
PSK.
And I would also suggest the city councils of Hamilton and Stevensville. I guess you have Stevensville on there.
Well, so there's two different lists. Make sure that's clear.
So, yeah, so let's talk about very quickly, because we have 5 minutes, the notification of meeting, just because as I look at the list, it's now over 40. And let's rethink the purpose of the notification of the meeting. We initially needed to make sure that all major stakeholders were aware of that we were looking at potentially initiating the CWPP process, right? And that there would be a meeting with the commissioners to determine that local support. So where is that line drawn? Like this, it's a great list, but honestly, this is a list for reaching out for the actual CWPP process. Because we want to make sure that every one of these voices is heard. Do they need to know about the meeting? And it's like, I don't
I'm gonna
want to.
say no. I'll answer the question. I'm gonna say no. This list does not need to know about this coming meeting.
Right.
The other list, the one with the fire departments, does.
So letter of support is also notification of the meeting.
Needs to go to those individuals, this list.
Yes.
The other list is the list of people that you want to involve
The
once you
CWPP.
get the commissioner's support.
I
You don't have the
think
commissioner's
it's-
support, why waste all these people's time? They could care less.
Right, that's kind of my thoughts. Yeah. Now, so then we want to make sure too that on this letter of support list, is there anybody that we might not ask for a letter of support because we know that they may not be as invested in the concept? But we want to make sure that they understand this is a great forum for them to come and ask us questions. Is there somebody that we know will have questions, will have an issue with this that we want to reach out to say, hey, we're here to answer questions. You know, and it could be that they want to lambast us and they think that there's regulations, right? I want them there. I want to be able, we are transparent. We want to make sure that we are there to answer questions.
Most
So-
of that top list signed the first two. They're the,
Yeah,
they're the
right.
ones that signed, so obviously they're gonna support another one.
Right, but is there anybody we need to add to this list that we actually would not be asking for a letter of support necessarily? Because we know that they might not be as involved yet. They could be on the later involvement list. Or would be, but
I think we put.
We need
those
to
people
grease the
on. I
wheels.
think we put those people on, the building industry. I think they're on this list.
do you, is there anybody else that you think has a voice and would want a voice at this meeting and would want us to answer some questions that we can reach out to or should reach out to?
I think, I mean, our biggest partner would be the realtors.
Yeah, yeah.
Board of Realtors, we got them on there.
Yeah.
Political, what about political entities? Are there any representatives?
I know Teresa Manzella
Yeah.
is a big, she can definitely kick a hornet's nest pretty quickly.
Okay, so
Um,
let's put Teresa Manzella.
I don't know, is Fred Thomas is he still? I think he's
Does
retired.
anybody know Teresa?
Yeah, I've been talking about this with Fred and sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
You've
I
been
don't-
talking
so
with Fred
he
about it?
Doesn't hold any offices. But
He doesn't anymore?
Dave Beatty is the one in Hamilton that does.
he definitely holds some influence.
So to me, that would be somebody we want to make sure that they are aware of this meeting. We don't have to ask for a letter of support because we just want to make sure they have that opportunity to provide or to ask us questions and learn more. Can we denote that somewhere in there, Anna, maybe do an extra, like a divider, and the names underneath that are not request letter of support in form of meeting only, in form of potential CWPP update and meeting. And then put Teresa under there, maybe?
Probably simply just, I mean, you can just go to the state legislature website. Select.
Oh, yeah.
I know Jason Ellsworth is local.
Okay, Jason Ellsworth, David Beatty.
Ellsworth.
David Beatty,
What's the first name?
David Beatty, B-E-D, E-Y, B-E-D-E-Y. Who's the other one? We're missing one. There's 4 of them, guys. Come on, one more.
Hit the legislature site.
Yeah, just type in there, go to
The Valley
legislature.
County Legislator.
And then we'll just, because we don't want to miss out on it, but that would make us, be very,
You want to select one and you really don't want to miss one.
yeah.
That's right.
I did have and so I guess my question for these individuals would be, is this something that we want to come from somebody that they already know and who knows them for sure versus just me randomly? Yes.
Just send it to them. They're legislators.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I just sent it to him.
Yes, definitely.
And then who are those people? But also I did have a conversation with Commissioner Burrows and asked him who specifically he needed to reach out to, if anyone, and he did say that he would be in contact with the people necessary.
Oh, that's right.
So I don't know if we, like, is it overstepping if we reach out to them as well, or?
It's his meeting. It's their meeting. We're presenting to them. And if he's got a list of people that he wants to contact. Let him contact them. There's no reason for us to also do that. the legislative representatives from the county, that makes sense, and that's public knowledge and record, so.
So
Yeah.
maybe nobody after, we just do the legislature, just that, and then nothing else? We just do our letters of support. I'm good with that. I apologize, he told me that, and I forgot.
So you mentioned that, Kristen, that about those that may not necessarily support, but may have questions.
Yeah,
So have we included any of the environmental groups?
right, do we wanna reach out to Friends of the Bitterroot? Do we wanna, I mean, I'm all for it. It's hard because then we get into that other list.
I think
You
if,
get that long
once we
list.
crack that,
Right.
we're into the other list.
Right,
We've
that's-
already got it then,
Right,
because they're already on that other list.
yeah. But not for the meeting, but I think, yeah, maybe it's
Not for
just,
this meeting.
we just do the letters of support and
Yeah, and
then,
that's what I'm saying,
Yeah,
is the
right.
other list,
right,
basically.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to include all the entities
oh, yeah, they're on,
that
they should
may
be on
have
the
a
list.
show of support or not.
Mhm,
We just don't know at this point,
right,
but we need to hear their questions
oh, yeah,
so that we can help, that'll help us shore the CWPP up and sharpen us up a little bit too,
right,
in terms of what may come out.
yeah,
But not for this meeting.
but maybe,
No.
yeah, not for this, but no, definitely.
Well, then, do we want to revisit the idea I had last week about whether I should send my chimp mail list out to all of my neighbors?
Right. Cause it's like if we're not putting out notification, we also shouldn't be recruiting.
Right.
Yeah, I agree, I say probably not, but it's definitely not something that you can, it's okay to say, hey, if you wanna learn more about the CWPP, we are gonna be presenting to the commissioners, you're welcome to come. Like if it's not a,
But there's not enough information for them to really
right, it's not the.
ask the question.
Right. This
Yeah.
is a pretty superficial treatment of the CWPP.
Yes,
I mean, we are there to present, it's the commissioners' meeting, and we are there to present to them, brief them, and ask for their support, and that's it,
That's it.
yeah,
you know?
Yep.
And it's not a general public information session about CWPPs. It's not, when can you get involved? How do we go forward? It's none of that. First of all, we don't know any of that. We don't get the local support, we won't get the funding to redo it, and that'll change the timeline, if not eliminate the effort.
You know, if we do get the funding and we do go forward, then they're gonna get their chance
Oh,
at
lots of
some
them.
point in time to come and voice their opinion.
Yeah,
okay, we're 5 minutes over. Can we at least really quick put some names on this list? So that we are out securing these letters of support with the goal of having the letters of support at least committed to by the next meeting,
they put my name for Florence.
and then,
And I don't mind reaching out to.
Arlene, you wanna be Victor?
I can do Victor and Stevensville.
Both.
Yeah,
Stevens.
go on it. Put me Victor, Stevensville, Pine Sale, and Corrals. I'll do all of those.
Thanks, Riley.
Now I feel like an underachiever.
Yeah, you can take care of everybody.
Well, Bridget can catch a lot of them, right?
Yeah.
They go to that All Valley.
Yes.
So do they have an All Valley one between now and then?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
and
nice.
you already got the All Valley one letter done?
No, not yet. Well, yeah, not.
You gave it to them, but they haven't sent it back.
Correct, correct.
So
I'm on Painted Rocks too, you guys. Send me Painted Rocks.
Man,
Bridget, can we reach out to Amazon? Oh.
well, I,
Ken, you gotta do 3 mile. I'm not gonna touch 3 mile.
Commander in Chief,
okay. I'll do 3 mile.
Can Brian do that? Can we ask Brian too?
Yeah, we could definitely ask Brian.
Say ask.
Yeah.
Are we still, let's work, newspapers? I guess we could get, Sula and Darby at All Valley.
We had people here from SUA
Yeah, we
a
did.
couple of
Yeah,
times.
the new fire chief.
Can we reach out to them
Yeah, absolutely,
to do that?
absolutely.
Do you wanna put
Who's
this
the chief down there, do you know?
I don't.
I can do it.
No, I don't know. But we had several
Yeah.
of the members from SUA here, a couple of different meetings. We must have a record of who they were.
Dave or Matt.
Wouldn't that be more appropriate to have a line officer make that contact rather than staff?
Who we asked for.
It was just, it was a whole, like, I just listed all the individuals that had signed the previous.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
So
Got
we
it.
don't need this movie on here, right?
No.
No,
I delete it?
Yes.
What about
He can't
commissioners and
write it
chairs?
'cause he's-
So that's us, I'd say council. Yeah, that's-
Yeah.
Oh,
All Valley.
Yes.
question.
Bitter building. You're on. Would you guys be willing to take it?
Yeah, we'll take
To
it
the
to our
group?
board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I need both of your names?
Ed and Tom.
And then I would just make sure that Bridget has your emails, so that we get your emails and she can make sure that's linked out with all the.
Yes.
Okay.
Water forum?
I think that's Heather.
But I want to say, was that what Mike can, doesn't he work with,
Rick. Rick was.
was it Rick that worked with the
Yeah.
water farm?
Yeah.
So ask Rick.
I don't think you need a specific contact for the Missoula and Ravalli Electric Co-op. They have business managers and boards and the whole thing. So if you just get it to them on their agenda.
Would be.
Do you work with them?
Yes.
Yeah. Both of them?
Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Same. Yeah, I can. All staff.
Are we still doing school districts and GSK on this one then? Thoughts?
I don't think the school districts need to know about this meeting. I think they should be on the other list.
Well, yeah, and this is a letter of support. Do we want a letter of support from the school districts?
It's too early.
I think that's your question. Yeah, it would be, I could see both, but
It's too early right now.
Okay.
See what GSK
Yeah, they won't even know what this is about.
yeah, right, at this point.
Bridget, do you have a contact with the hospital?
Believe Forrest, that's especially if you are.
Make sure to change the name, right? What is it, Bitterroot Health?
Yes.
We had the tribes up there, didn't we, somewhere, one of those lists?
I think on the other list.
Yeah.
On that involvement.
Yes, on the involvement. Do we,
And by tribes, you mean the Federated Salish Group.
do we want CSKT on letter of support? We want to reach out.
Is there like a
Yeah.
local working group
Okay.
too? Is there a local group? Because I tried to find a contact and they may or may not still be getting my emails, but I cannot find a direct person in their Raleigh County as a representative.
I think they should be on the other list. That's a lot to work up a thing with the tribes in the next month.
Well, the other thing is, we could just ask. If we don't receive, it's okay too. Like, we're not out anything.
It's not a formal consultation, right? It's not.
No.
Inviting.
Yeah,
Yeah, so maybe just, it's probably a good idea.
send in any additional information with this.
Yeah,
Where we at in track?
CSKT, yeah.
Who's gonna make that?
Yeah, is there anybody that knows a point person for, at least for Raleigh County?
Not anymore. But they're kind of like the, and that, if you get it to the tribal government, it'll get into their system.
Okay. Why don't you cut me down for that?
So the tribal council, who's the council chair? You know the council chair?
No,
Well, that'd be easy to find.
right,
That's who to address it to.
yeah.
Kristen, I can go through the person and see if we can get a contact.
Okay. that works. That's the first time I've gotten called out when we've been. Yeah, that's actually pretty.
Yeah.
pretty amazing. It is.
What do we want to do about the legislatures?
Just get the addresses off the legislature site and send them a letter.
Yeah, we're doing that.
I just have email addresses for all. Email or do you think physical?
I'm sorry, what?
Do you think an email or a physical letter is best?
Are they in session right now?
Then probably an email. Fred's not in anymore, huh?
He termed out, didn't he?
Alrighty. Do you want me to take another listens? Yeah? Okay.
Now, what about Team Rubicon? Would that be something that you would want to, did you think your group would want to be initiate a letter of support or down the line? You want to just, well, and it's just a, hey, it's just an ask. Would we?
I have to ask my, okay, staff.
Oh, yeah, yeah, but it might be worth it to, you know.
I think that'd probably be, yeah. I think we-
Okay, yeah, we're good.
Why don't we flush that out really good? Happy with that.
And we wanted a one pager, but he's the one that.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts, concerns at this point? Awesome. Thank you.